A little program here so we can practice using loops, different kinds of loops that you know, and we can just practice the syntax of arrays and array lists and remember the differences. Most of you can do this, but it's good to just review it before the AP exam. So I have a loop here that creates an array and an array list. They're both 10, length 10. And the random letters method just randomly gives it 2 letters. So they're strings, so we can tell it's 2 different. It's just, think of them as 2-letter words. Now, we want to print out all the elements of the array using a standard for loop. We can do it like this. And for int I equals 0, I less than arr.length, I plus plus. Length, notice, doesn't have parentheses because for arrays, length is a public instance variable. So you can get access to the length that way. And then we do system.out.print. And the only reason I do, it's not print line here, is so that it'll print it horizontally. So if I do this and run it, it gives me those letters, right? The 10 letters in the array. Now, what if we want to use a for each loop to print the elements of the array? So what I'm going to do is move that comment so that's no longer commented out. Now we're using the for each syntax. So for string temp colon ARR, that means temp is going to one by one take on all the values in the array, and we're going to print them out with a couple spaces and then print line at the end. We should get the same thing as the first time, which we do. What if we want to use a while loop? So if we want to use a while loop, there it's a little trickier. We got to declare the variable outside the while. So int I equals 0. While I less than arr.length, and then system.out.println arr bracket I, right? I plus plus. Pretty similar to the for loop. Notice with the for loop, this I plus plus and the if statement and this are all embedded in the for loop. It's why you use for loops when you're going through an array, when you know how many steps you're going to take, and not a while loop. But you can use a while loop here, and as you'll see, you get the same results. So what if we want to now look at going through the array list? Again, using a standard for loop, right? We can do for int j equals 0, j less than list.size, j plus plus. System.out.print list.getJ, and then a couple spaces in print line. Logically, it's about the same. You notice .size, it has parentheses on it, because for array lists and for linked lists, size is a method, it's not a variable, so we need the parentheses. And we're, instead of bracket j, we're using .getJ. And if we print this, see we get the random letters that are in the array list. Now what if we go through and we do a for each loop? For string temp colon list, it means temp's going to take on one by one each of the values in lists. We print temp plus that, those 2 spaces, and then the print line to go to a new line at the end, and get the same thing. And notice here, I want to lengthen this out a little bit. Oh. So you can see with an array and with an array list, essentially the syntax is exactly the same. It's one of the powers of the for each loop is it doesn't matter what kind of collection you have. As long as it's linearly ordered, you can use a for each loop to go through all the elements one at a time. While loop is going to be pretty much exactly the same thing. So as it is for the array, except that we have to use dot size instead of length. with the parentheses there, and .get instead of brackets. And again, so this is just a quick reminder, and I'm going to put a couple more examples up on the Schoology page of different things you might do with arrays and array lists and different syntax. Hopefully this helps answer the questions I got from a couple people earlier today.